know that feeling when a crisis hits and your first instinct is just to power through, to bottle everything up so you can survive? We've all been there. But what if that's actually the worst thing you could possibly do? Today, we're going to dig into that exact question, and we'll do it by looking at Sinek's own personal journey during the start of the COVID-19 pandemic.
So this is where it all began for him. His business was facing these enormous challenges, and he did what a lot of us would do. He called a friend for advice. In this case, an active duty military friend. And he asked, hey, how do I compartmentalize all this emotion so I can just get stuff done? The answer he got back was so blunt, so direct, and just completely unexpected. You can't.
And right there, that one word, can't, it just shatters this huge myth we have about resilience. This idea that we can somehow build a wall around our stress, that we can just box it up and deal with it later. Well, as SInek was about to find out, it's just that, a myth. It's a strategy that's pretty much doomed to fail.
So his friend then gave him his really critical warning, something he'd seen over and over again in the military. He basically said, look, nobody gets through a crisis completely untouched. You might be able to push that trauma down to stay focused on the mission, but it doesn't just disappear. Nope, it waits. And it almost always shows up months later, long after you think the coast is clear.
I mean, this is the core problem, isn't it? The goal is simple. Stay focused, get the job done. But the reality of trying to compartmentalize is that you're not actually preventing the emotional fallout, you're just postponing it. It's like you're racking up this huge emotional debt that sooner or later is absolutely going to come due.
So, with this warning ringing in his ears, SInek did something so smart. He didn't just sit around and wait for the other shoe to drop. He got on the phone with his other A-type personality friends, and they made a pact. The rule was dead simple. The second you start to feel anything at all, you pick up the phone, you call someone in the group. And you know what? It worked. One of his friends, a pretty well-known CEO, started going through it. She made the call, and they talked her through it together.
But even after helping his friends navigate their struggles, Sinek's own turn was coming. It was about 4 or 5 months into the pandemic, long after the initial chaos had kind of died down. He started to feel, well, just off, kind of burnt out, tired, unmotivated. That warning he'd gotten all those months ago was about to become his own reality.
So he did the right thing. He called that same military friend back. And what he learned next is so important because it lays out these really subtle, often misunderstood signs of delayed trauma. And we're not talking about some big, dramatic Hollywood meltdown here. No, these are the quiet, everyday feelings that we so often just brush off or get wrong.
This was the brilliant question SInek asked. See, he didn't ask what is trauma. He asked, what are the symptoms? Like, what does it actually feel like on a Tuesday? The answer he got was a total game changer for him, and it might just be for you too.
His friend started with the first sign. He said, I go to bed late. Then I don't want to get out of bed in the morning. And there's no good reason for it. Just this general feeling of blah, inertia. Your sleep's all messed up.
And for SInek, it was like a lightning bolt, a shock of recognition. He's thinking, wait a minute, he's not just describing some abstract symptom. He's describing my life, right now.
Then his friend kept going. The next symptom? Having an unproductive day. And hey, we all have those, right? We tell ourselves, it's cool, I deserve a day off. But the real warning sign is when it's not just one day. It happens the next day. And then again. It starts to become a pattern.
And there it was again, that feeling of, oh, that too. The pattern was becoming crystal clear. SInek realized he wasn't just having unproductive days. He was telling himself the exact same stories to justify them.
And then came the final symptom. And it's maybe the most dangerous one. You get really antisocial. You just pull away from people. You don't want to talk to anybody. And you definitely don't want to ask for help, which is, ironically, the one thing you need the most.
And with that, the final piece of the puzzle just clicked into place. This wasn't burnout. This wasn't just a funk. This was it. This was the delayed trauma his friend had warned him about, playing out exactly as predicted. The diagnosis was clear. So, what's the cure?
Okay, so recognizing the problem is huge, but it's only half the battle, right? The real power comes from turning that realization into action. So, SInek asked his friend, Okay, so what do I do? And the advice he got back was remarkably simple and incredibly direct. His friend's antidote was basically a two-part prescription. And the language here is so critical. It's not, you should try to, it's you must. First, you must force yourself back into healthy habits, like a regular sleep schedule. Second, you must force yourself to reach out and ask for help, especially when it's the absolute last thing on earth you feel like doing.
And SInek, to his credit, didn't hesitate. He didn't just think about it, he did it. He started making calls, honoring that pact they'd all made, and he just said the simple words, "Hey, I'm struggling."
This whole experience led SInek to develop this really powerful personal rule that honestly we can all adopt. He calls it no crying alone. And it's a simple framework that puts human connection right at the very heart of what it means to be resilient.
So the rule is this simple. When you feel that weight, when you feel overwhelmed, you don't have to carry it by yourself. You just pick up the phone and you call somebody. You don't even need to ask for a solution. All you have to say is, "Can I just talk?" And that one little shift, it just changes everything. It makes connection the default action, not isolation.
And this really brings us to the ultimate lesson in all of this. Getting through the hard stuff in life isn't about being tougher or building higher walls around ourselves. It's about building stronger bridges to each other. As SInek says, the single most important thing that gets us through anything hard is the quality of our relationships.
And that brings us to the end, and to the most important takeaway from this whole explainer. It's really a question for you to think about. After hearing all this, knowing what you know now, who is that person for you? Who is the first person you would call? Because just having an answer to that question, that might be the most resilient thing you can do.